While it's often big multinationals that get the big city business headlines, it's smaller and medium enterprises that drive many of China's urban economies. This week I interviewed the mayor of an American city known for its support of entrepreneurship. Tom Barrett, mayor of Milwaukee, explains how private, smaller businesses contribute to the economic growth of a region. We know private entrepreneurship has driven much of the economic growth in China. So take the Yangtze River Delta region, for example. We see a lot of cities with a higher GDP growth rates actually has a lot more private entrepreneurship. Do you think you have the same situation in the U.S.?
Absolutely. And let me just say, this is my first trip to China, and I have been amazed at the economic growth here. It is staggering and very, very impressive. And really it sends a message to me as a mayor of a major American city how it's important to invest in our cities. And what we're seeing in Milwaukee right now is we are seeing a lot of development, nothing on the scale that you're seeing here in China. But in terms of investment in an American city, and particularly a Midwestern American city, we're very, very proud of that. And it's the private entrepreneurs who are investing, are building large buildings, are investing in the city, which is something that's very, very important because it reverses a trend that started several decades ago where money was leaving the cities. Now we're seeing money coming back into the cities. In the United States, there's always been the emphasis more on private investment as opposed to public investment. And I think that's one of the major changes we're seeing in China right now is all the private investment.
I understand the U.S. is probably a little bit different because you said it always promote private investment, but in China it's not always like this, right. You know. And at this point of time, do you think private entrepreneurship or private investment should be promoted equally throughout the country, or do you think we need to take regional differences into consideration?
Well, I think that China, again, has done such an impressive job with private investment in the large urban areas. Right. The real test is going to be to get private investment in the rural areas where the standard of living is so much lower.
How do we achieve that? Do you have any experience that you can share with us?
Well, I think that there are several things. Again, I have more of an urban perspective since I'm a mayor of a major city. And what we try to do is we try to sell investors on the fact that we've got a good workforce that's ready available. Again, where we have seen the problems are with the low-income areas, and selling the companies on that has been one of the focuses. For the rural areas, I think that there are times when a company will look at a rural area and see that even though it's not located in the heart of an urban area, there might be some advantages. One of the things, again, I think from China's perspective is how can it take advantage of some of the agricultural advancements that are made in the United States. If China could take advantage of some of the agricultural products that are made in the United States, I think that would help the standard of living for a lot of the rural people in China.
But see, there's also an interesting scenario. Take Shanghai, for example. Shanghai is a big city with a large population, but we do not see a lot of private entrepreneurship in this city compared to neighboring smaller cities, you know, in neighboring provinces. We do see a lot of multinationals who have established their operations in Shanghai, but in terms of private entrepreneurs, small to medium-sized companies, we don't see that many.
And that might be because Shanghai is probably intimidating to a small or mid-sized company. And if they don't have the resources that a multinational does, they might say, I can't play, it's too big. Right. And I think that's actually an advantage for some of the small to medium-sized cities in China, that if they can partner up, for example, we're going to be in Ningbo, and working with Ningbo, to the extent that Milwaukee can partner with Ningbo, we see that there's potential for pluses on both sides. And I think in the long run, as we've seen in the United States, you can't have certain parts of the country that are doing extremely well, right, and the rest of the country not doing well. Those are the seeds for civil unrest, right, if you have the disparity, too much of a disparity. So I think that the government is going to have to recognize that as wonderful and glamorous as Shanghai and Beijing are, that it's going to have to share the wealth, literally.
From a local government's perspective, how do you compare these small to medium-sized companies to the multinationals or big companies in terms of their contribution to a region's growth?
We see that most of the jobs are created by the small to mid-sized companies. The larger companies, again, are great corporate citizens. But really, most of the jobs that we have in our city are jobs that come from small to mid-sized employers. And I think as the economy matures here in China, that will probably occur as well. That you want these companies to grow, the small, mid-sized ones. The multinationals are the glamorous ones and the ones that everybody has heard of. but they can only employ so many people. They have support systems, they have suppliers, there are offshoot businesses that come from those. So the multiplication effect of having a large corporation is important. But I think that certainly the small and medium-sized companies are very important.
And from your experience, how does the government, the local government, establish a dialogue with these small to medium?
Well, we actually meet with business leaders, and again, I find that 2/3 of the growth, maybe even more than that, 2/3 of the growth in employment and businesses in Milwaukee will come from businesses that are already located there. Mm-hmm. So I want to make sure that I am nurturing or taking care of the businesses that are currently located there. And so I'll meet with them. Again, there have been a number of businesses here in China where I've said, well, is there a way that I can help you in my trip to China? So I think that for local elected officials, the first rule of thumb is to protect what you have and to nurture what you have. Then once you get beyond that, to try to bring in more businesses and to sell your region. So I think cities, small and mid-sized cities in China, need to do the same thing. They need to get on, what I call it is get on the radar screen and let people know they're out there. Right. And again, that's exactly what I'm trying to do with my city, and that's the main reason I'm here in China.
Prior to his current post, Mr. Barrett served a total of 5 two-year terms in the U.S. Congress.